Right now, somewhere in the world, someone is chasing a feeling, a drink, a smoke, a cup of coffee, anything to shift how their brain feels for a little while. You might think this is a modern habit, something invented by bored, comfortable people, but you'd be wrong. The urge to change your own mind is older than farming, older than writing, older than the wheel. Long before humans built a single wall, they were already searching the forest floor for something that would make the world feel different. And archaeologists have now dug up the proof, buried in caves, tombs, and ancient ritual sites all over the planet. So the real question is, when did it start? And the answer goes back much further than anyone expected. To find the beginning, we can't even start with humans. In 2014, a biologist at UC Berkeley named Robert Dudley published a book called The Drunken Monkey. His argument was simple. Millions of years ago, our primate ancestors lived on fruit, and when fruit falls to the ground and sits too long, yeast gets in. The sugar breaks down and it begins to ferment, producing small amounts of alcohol. So when our ancestors ate that overripe fruit, they got a tiny buzz. They had no idea why, but it felt good, and it signaled the fruit was rich in calories, so they kept coming back. Over millions of years, this became wired into us. Our attraction to intoxication isn't a modern flaw, it's an evolutionary inheritance built in long before we were even human. The taste for altering our minds was there from the very start. But fermented fruit was an accident. The real story begins when humans stopped stumbling into it by chance and started searching on purpose. Picture an early human, tens of thousands of years ago, tasting everything in the landscape to figure out what was food and what was poison. Some plants fed you, some killed you, and a rare few did something in between. They changed how you saw the world. Imagine being that person. You eat a strange mushroom expecting food, and suddenly the colors get brighter, the sounds go deeper, and the world tilts sideways. To an ancient human with no science, that wasn't chemistry, that was magic, a doorway to another world. And this is the key to the whole story. For ancient humans, these experiences weren't a party, they were treated as sacred, a way to speak to spirits, to see the future, to touch something beyond the ordinary. The people who used them weren't outcasts, they were often the most powerful people in the tribe. And this isn't guesswork, the proof is in the ground. Start with the caves. At sites like Lascaux in France and across Spain, humans painted the walls up to 17,000 years ago. And alongside the animals, researchers found strange geometric shapes, swirls, grids, and zigzags. Here's the eerie part. These are the exact patterns the human brain generates during an altered state. Some scientists, like David Lewis Williams, argue these caves may be among the oldest records of humans deliberately entering trances and painting what they saw. Then there's the hard physical evidence. In a cave in Bolivia, archaeologists found a 1,000-year-old ritual pouch made from 3 fox snouts stitched together. Inside were traces of multiple mind-altering plants, a complete, organized kit. This wasn't random. This was a specialist who knew exactly what they were doing. And in the mountains of Central Asia, at a site called Jirzhankal Cemetery in western China, researchers found wooden braziers from around 500 BC packed with burnt cannabis, and this cannabis was unusually strong, far more potent than the wild plants nearby. These people were selecting the strong stuff on purpose, heating it and breathing in the smoke together while they buried their dead. Everywhere humans went, they carried this practice with them. Now here's what makes this truly strange. Every ancient culture all over the planet ended up with the same figure, the shaman, a spiritual guide believed to travel between the world of the living and the world of spirits. And across cultures separated by entire oceans, one tool showed up again and again to make that journey: mind-altering plants and fungi. Think about that. Tribes in the Amazon brewing ayahuasca, cultures in Mexico using sacred mushrooms in ritual. The Aztecs literally called them teonanacatl, flesh of the gods. Peoples in Siberia using the bright red fly agaric mushroom. Groups in Africa and Asia doing the same. These people could possibly not have talked to each other, yet they independently discovered mind-altering plants and independently decided they were sacred doorways to another world. When completely separate cultures reach the exact same conclusion, it tells you they were responding to something deep and universal, something built into the human brain itself. And here's the part that ties it all together. The reason these plants work on you at all is because your brain was already wired to receive them. Your body naturally produces its own chemicals that control mood, pleasure, and perception. And by pure coincidence of nature, certain plants and fungi produce chemicals shaped almost exactly like your own. Take psilocybin, the compound in magic mushrooms. Inside your body, it becomes a molecule that fits your brain's serotonin receptors like a spare key fitting a lock that was already there. The plant didn't invent the feeling. Your brain already had the door. The plant just happened to match the key. Think about what that means. The capacity to feel awe, to see the world completely differently, that was already inside the human brain, waiting. And some scientists take this even further. There's a bold, controversial idea, sometimes called the stoned ape theory, proposed by Terence McKenna, that these experiences may have helped shape human imagination itself, the ability to picture things that aren't there, to believe in spirits, gods, and stories. Most scientists doubt it went that far, but nobody denies the deeper truth. The desire to transcend the ordinary is one of the oldest features of being human. Millions of years ago, our primate ancestors were already drawn to intoxication through fermented fruit. The wiring was there before we were human. Tens of thousands of years ago, early humans searching for food found plants that changed their minds, and instead of fearing them, they called them sacred. Every continent, separated by oceans, humans independently built rituals around them and placed the shaman at the center of their world. They left the proof on cave walls at Lascaux, in a fox snout pouch in Bolivia, in cannabis braziers in China, and all of it worked because the human brain was built to be unlocked, with receptors already waiting for a key. Getting high isn't a modern invention. It isn't a sign of a broken society. It's one of the oldest and most universal things our species has ever done, a search for something beyond the ordinary that's written into the very structure of the human mind. The next time you reach for a coffee to wake up or a drink to unwind, remember what you're really doing. You're continuing something that started before your species had a name, an ancient, restless urge to feel the world a little differently. Our ancestors did it around fires, in caves, in sacred rituals under the stars. The methods changed, the reasons dressed themselves in science and ceremony, but the impulse is the same one that made a primate reach for overripe fruit millions of years ago, and an early human swallow a strange mushroom, hoping to touch the spirit world. We've always wanted to escape our own heads. We just keep finding new doors. If there's a human behavior you've always wondered about, drop it in the comments. Your question might be the next video.